pleasure tonight to welcome you to hearing from our graduate women in STEM. Students, actually, it's graduate women in science, isn't it? Or is it STEM? GWIS?
STEM.
It is STEM. Yeah. All right, I was right the first time. So welcome to our panel of women that are in our graduate programs across STEM at UMass. And the GWIS chapter was started here just about 5 years ago. And it's an awesome chapter. They do outreach and panels like you're in here tonight. And they were doing science cafes when we were doing science cafes still. So it's a great organization to tap into further if you so desire, so we can share some of that information. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Merritt, and let each of you introduce yourselves.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Merritt Harlan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm currently in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering here at UMass. And my undergraduate major was actually in math, so I went to liberal arts college and didn't pursue engineering at that time, but switched over to engineering in grad school. My research looks at rivers and how we can estimate river flow from satellite imagery. And accomplishment of mine that I'm proud of in my STEM undergraduate pursuits, I think was sticking with it. I took a test, I think my first semester in math, and did really poorly in it, but I decided that I wouldn't let that stop me from continuing taking classes. And then I'll turn it over to Bridget, and just for Emma and Morgan, we'll just introduce ourselves and then ask some questions and answers. But if you two have any questions you want us to address, please feel free to put them in the chat at any time, and we'll be sure to get to those.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a mechanical engineer, and I study vibrations of wind turbine blades. My undergraduate major was also mechanical engineering. And my biggest accomplishment in my undergraduate days was being voted Mechanical Engineering Student of the Year by the faculty. And that is because I showed up to office hours for every single one of my professors. Oh, thank you, Paula. So I will turn it over to Kimberly.
Sure, thanks, Bridget. So my name is Kim Bolduc. I use she, her pronouns. So I'm currently in the chemistry department at UMass, and I study what materials and matter does under high pressure and high temperature. So basically what kind of changes do extreme conditions have on unit cells and like the crystals of materials and things like that. So as an undergraduate, I double majored. So I have a dual degree. One is a Bachelor of Arts in English, and then one is a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. So my parents, when I was going to undergrad, they said, you know, we just want something that has a job at the end of it. And so this is my compromise, because I really love English and I wanted to be a writer, but I also love science. So I did both. So my biggest accomplishment in my undergraduate STEM pursuits would probably be finishing both majors, because it was kind of like, you know, being in two colleges at once, and they both think very differently. But I think that I also really enjoyed doing research as an undergraduate. I worked on solar panels, and that was really a cool way for me to explore my talents and my passions. So that's about me. I'm going to turn it over to Jewel.
Hi, so my name is Jewel. I go by she, her pronouns. I am currently in the chemistry department, and my research is on RNA delivery using nanoparticles and lipids. My undergraduate major was actually biochemistry, because they didn't have a chemistry major at the school I went. It was very small. And then my biggest accomplishment would be graduating and doing as well as I did, because I surprised myself in how well I was able to do. So yeah, I can't see who else is on this, so whoever hasn't gone.
This is all of us, so I'll turn to asking you questions. But again, Emma and Morgan, we'd love to answer like your specific questions. And so feel free to either unmute yourselves or post in the chat any questions you have. But to get us started, I'll ask Bridget, what made you decide to pursue STEM, and when did you come about this decision?
Yeah, so I decided to pursue STEM because I really wanted to do something something good for the world. And I decided this at actually 28 years old. So I had a business degree first, and I was working, and I was like, this is so unfulfilling. I'm not doing anything that feels like I'm doing something good, you know, and I'm spending so much time doing this, you know, 40 plus hours in a week. So I decided that I really wanted to do something centered on renewable energy, something good for the planet. And that's what brought me back into school. And I had to do a second undergraduate degree before going on to my PhD now, but it was well worth it. And I love what I do every day now. Should I call on someone else now, or?
Sure. Kim or Jewel, do you want to also tackle this question, or can I wait for a different one?
Yeah, I can go. So I actually hated STEM originally, all through school pretty much. I kind of started liking it into middle school and high school, but it still wasn't really a passion of mine. But there wasn't really any of the other subjects that I was like, yeah, I'm really interested in that. So I decided to just give science a try in college and I started with biology because I absolutely hated chemistry. I really struggled in chemistry. So I was just trying to take only the required courses as a bio major and ended up just falling in love with chemistry my freshman year. So I decided to switch to biochemistry because that's the closest I could get. So that's kind of seeing that chemistry is in just like everyday things that I finally realized in college was kind of what got me into STEM, or like chemistry in particular.
Yeah, so for me, I think that the most enjoyable part of STEM for me is the hands-on aspect. So I really enjoyed in high school, you know, doing the chemistry labs, and I couldn't stand biology though because like the dissection and stuff, but I really loved like having my hands and getting my hands dirty and being able to do things that way. And so I especially love that part about my undergraduate experience. And then after my undergraduate years, I actually worked in industry for 2 years, and it just reaffirmed how much I love working with my hands and how much I love instrumentation, really. And that's part of the reasons why I'm a chemist and not any other field of science. So I actually kind of became known as the handy woman around my lab in my industry fields because I was always fixing things. And then when I came to UMass, I wanted to incorporate that hands-on feel. So I make sure that, you know, I'm very hands-on what I'm doing now, and I'm running instruments, and I'm doing a lot of firsthand research. And that's just to say that computation is really not for me. I really like to be an experimentalist and just be able to have a noticeable effect every day. So that's kind of like why I'm in STEM.
Thank you all. So this next question I'll throw to Bridget as our kind of lone engineer, other than myself, but I was wondering how did you know which engineering field to choose?
Yeah, so you know, there's a bunch of different engineering fields out there. Just a few of them would be the one I'm in, mechanical engineering. There's electrical engineering, industrial, chemical, civil, biomedical, software, aerospace, computer. So lots of different engineering fields to choose from. And, you know, even when I went back to school, I was like, well, I want to do renewable energy. So obviously I should do environmental engineering. not realizing that if I want to work maybe with wind energy, which I do now, and wind turbines specifically, that falls under mechanical engineering. So I guess for me, first it was like, okay, this is where I ultimately want to end up. So what type of engineering does that fall under? Mechanical is also just really great because it's pretty broad. So it really brings in aspects of civil engineering, aspects of electrical engineering. So you can get more of a broad knowledge through mechanical engineering. What about Merritt? Do you want to answer that question as well?
Sure. So I was a little naive looking at engineering at first. I was thinking that I wanted to do something that was similar to math, but more applied. And I thought engineering seemed like a good fit for that broadly. And then I went and thought, I like being outside. I like water and air. And so I felt like environmental was a nice fit for that. But a lot of that was because an environmental engineer came and gave a talk at my college. And so that's sort of what I was exposed to at the time. But I really enjoyed the fields, and maybe similar to Bridget, I found that there is a lot of overlap and synergy between different engineering fields and different departments in general at colleges. And so I've done a lot of collaborative work with geoscientists, and I've taken classes from systems engineers and gotten advice from more computer engineers. So I think there's a lot of room for overlap and collaboration. And so I think the decision is important, but there's also a lot of room and leeway for creativity in between that. So I'll turn this next question to Kim. And what is a STEM stereotype that you found to be false or would like to change?
So something that I have kind of encountered recently is I kind of just realized last month that my family has no idea what I do all day. And I realize it's because if you're in STEM, you kind of have this stereotype like, oh, they're a nerd. They don't even speak English half the time. They're just speaking like this technical jargon. And I think that like one thing I'm really trying to change is like to condense and like explain my research so normal people can get it, because like I just found that like I would go to like family events and people would be like, what do you do? And I would be like, I work with high pressure, blah, blah, blah. And they would just like, their eyes would glaze over. So I really think that like the challenge in STEM is to translate, our research into a couple categories. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? How does it relate to my life? And, why is it important? So that's something that I kind of want to change about STEM.
Thanks. Jewel or Bridget, do you want to add on to that at all?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think one of the reasons I didn't pursue STEM at first and I went for a business degree is because I just imagined that I had to be, some nerd, as Kimberly said, maybe like playing video games, like, that's the kind of persona that I have to be. And, I still encounter people like that, or they're like, oh, did you see this YouTube video of a jet engine? And I'm like, no, and that's okay. And it was actually my professor who said, not every mechanical engineer has to understand how a car works, or like, the motor. Like, I don't understand that. I can't fix my own car. And, that really broke down a lot of barriers for me, myself. And, it's okay to not be, an engineer in everything that you do 24/7. You can have a life outside of that, and that's okay. You can have different interests.
Thanks for that. And again, Emma and Morgan, if you have any questions that are, different from these, or you want to ask us, feel free to unmute yourselves or post in the chat again. But in the meantime, I'll give this next question to Jewel. So who has been a role model for you in STEM?
So I'd probably say like the people in my lab right now, because I don't really, outside of school, I didn't really know anyone in STEM. Like everyone I know is in business, or they just do more hands-on work and trade work. So I didn't really know anyone until I started going to school. So like people in my lab that are more senior students, my PI, they're role models for me. And I kind of hope I eventually get to their level of understanding where I can teach other people. So yeah, I would say them because I don't really know too many people outside closely.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a role model they're keen to talk about? But if not, I have a question ready to go.
Yeah, I have to say that I really didn't have a role model like when I decided what I wanted to major in. I just feel like it's because like I didn't have, I mean, I had quite a few female professors at my undergraduate college, but I did not have, like, I just feel like it's a different experience when you're a woman in STEM, especially because, you know, for me, I've experienced quite a little bit of pushback because I'm a woman, like people asking if there's a male tutor they can work with. And, a physics professor once emailed me and says, congratulations for being the only girl in the class, get 100 on the test, and, things like that. So I just really didn't have anybody to look up to for that. But luckily times change and, I'm seeing a lot more women. I think, Jewel, I think like half of our class is women. So we're changing the times right before our eyes.
Thank you for that. And Kim, I'll actually ask you to talk again for this next one, since I know that you've done some undergraduate research, but I was wondering if you could just kind of explain, what is research and how did you get involved in undergraduate research?
Sure. So I did research as an undergrad. So basically, in addition to my normal classes, I was in his lab. I think they asked us for 10 hours a week, 10 to 20 hours, depending on how intense. And basically, we just tried to figure out the best materials to incorporate in a solar cell. So I would read papers about what other people are doing in the field. I would, take some of those procedures from papers and try to adapt them to our system. I would collaborate with other grad students, and then I would characterize what I had done in lab, go back, look at the data, see if I'd actually done what I wanted to do. If not, it was just this continual cycle. And it's a fun process because you really have to think out of the box, and there's no textbook, there's no, written understanding of what you're supposed to do. It's really about you, and for me it was really about my PI and trying to understand what he expected out of me and what I expected out of myself and completing this research project. Because the other secret about research is it's never done. And this is something that I'm having to come to terms with in terms of my PhD, is that even if I make substantial progress on my project before I leave in 3 or 4 years, whenever I do complete my PhD, it's not going to be done. And that's something that's very hard to swallow. And the other thing about research is there are no tests and there are no, homework assignments, like there's no grades. So you really don't know how you're doing along the way unless you keep checking in with your PI and keep checking in with the scientific community in general. There's no way to really assess progress other than what you are accomplishing. And our graduate program director likes to say, you are the principal stakeholder in your PhD research experience. And he likes to use that phrase to remind us that, research is a lot of self-motivation and self-direction. So every day, even when you've had a failed experiment, and be able to go back at it. So unless you need a mental health day, then totally take that. But it definitely is a lot different than classes. And honestly, when I explain this to my family, so now I'm a second year graduate student, I'm done taking classes. My PhD is now solely dependent on my quality of research. It's so hard for people to understand because how many credits do you need? How many credit hours? Blah, blah, blah. And it's not about that. It's about the quality of research. So yeah, it's a fun process. It really teaches you to think outside the box and to do things that nobody else in the science world is doing, or to, kind of get inspired by their ideas and try something new. So for me, that's what I love most is like the creative aspect. Like you need to come up with something totally new, and you can get inspiration from other places, but you kind of need to make your mark on your field.
Thank you for that. And I'll just follow up real quick. If you could say what a PI is, I'm realizing that I didn't know before like grad school what that term meant.
Sure. So, did you direct that question to me, Merritt?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So a PI, the term actually stands for principal investigator, PI, and basically it's the professor. So somebody who already has a PhD and maybe has done a postdoc or not. So they are already kind of established in the field, and you kind of work underneath them, and they teach you and train you along the way. My PI is very new at UMass, so I'm actually his first round of grad students. So we have a lot of FaceTime with him. So basically, I say, "Hey James, I don't know how to do this," and he's like, "This is how you do it." So it's a lot of teaching and mentorship. Honestly, I've heard people refer to PIs as their boss, and honestly, they do. If you go to a STEM field that is paid, they do kind of control your money, and they control where that money comes from, like your funding. So if they have grants, they might pay you out of a grant, or if they have startup funds, they might pay you out of that. I don't really like to think of him as my boss. I like to think of him as more of my mentor, and as like the person who's teaching me how to be a scientist.
Thank you. Yeah, and then, so yeah, again, Emma or Morgan, if you have any questions or clarifications, feel free to interrupt us at any time. But next, I guess, I'll ask Bridget, and I know you've kind of already touched on this, but do you have to be good at math and science to be an engineer?
No. I mean, it's good to be good at it. But something that you should know going into college is they'll teach you what you need to know, and classes are what you put into it. So if something's not making sense to you in your college level course, go to your teaching assistant, go to your professor, go get help. I've done that in every single one of my classes. I have gone and gotten help. So, just if you put in the effort, you'll be able to get there, no doubt. I also just want to touch on research real quick, though, because I did a program that is done nationwide. It's called Research Experience for Undergrads, REUs. And I was at a community college when my professor told me about them, and that's how I got involved in research. And it was something that I didn't even consider. I thought, I'd get the second undergrad degree. I would go on and maybe get a master's. Definitely don't want to do research. But, I dipped my toe in the water, and I loved it. It just totally clicked for me. So, I think it's important to just put yourself out there and maybe try something new. I didn't know how to code then, which is a huge part of my research now. And, they were very willing to work with me and train me with what I needed to know at the time before I took a coding class. So, don't let it intimidate you. It can be a lot of fun.
Thanks for that. And I'll follow up briefly too, and just mention that I didn't do research in my undergrad. So it is possible to try research later on. And maybe similar to Bridget, I really would like to echo that, it's a continuing learning process. The things I learned in undergraduate are very different from the things I learned in grad school. I think even if you kept the same field, it's still different sometimes. And I really do feel like in some ways, going to college and going through high school is learning how to learn, and not so much about the actual materials, but learning how to read a paper or write a paper. And I thought going into grad school that, all right, I'm really good at math. I just did a whole undergraduate math degree. But my advisor said that the reason why he had reached out to me was because he saw that I did a good job on my writing score, and that so much of research is actually writing, and that he wanted to make sure that I could actually do the writing part. So I think STEM is maybe more holistic than the stereotype of just math and engineering.
Yeah, if I can just kind of jump on that, I did not realize how many presentations I would be doing in graduate school. I do probably like 2 a month, and it's just not a skill. Like, I didn't think that soft skills would matter as much as they do, but it really is about knowing how to talk to people, how to prepare, legible, understandable diagrams, and how to be a good writer, like Merritt says.
Thank you. So I'll throw this next question to Jewel and ask, how did you decide what college or university to attend?
So the main thing for me was money. The college I actually ended up attending, I applied to very last minute because one of my mom's friends was a guidance counselor and told my mom, like, this college gives really good scholarships. Um, so I applied last minute and ended up getting in, and they gave me a good amount of money. Um, so that was my main reason. I also partially decided to go there because I played tennis in high school and I wasn't going to play in college. I was not that great. But they had a tennis team and wanted me on it. And I still am very shy, but I was really shy in high school. And I knew that being involved in extracurricular like tennis would help me meet people and get me out of my shell a bit, which it did. So money and being able to play tennis were probably the two biggest things on why I decided to go there. I liked the labs there, and they had a program. The labs were actually kind of older, but I liked them better than some of the other colleges that I looked at. So that was one thing. It wasn't like a huge prestigious school, but it felt really nice. And also, they had really small class sizes, which I get very intimidated because I'm kind of shy to ask questions in a big lecture. I had some classes. I think the biggest class I ever had there was about 40 to 50 people. And then once I got to my higher level classes, there was like 4 people in my class. So that was important to me, class sizes, because I knew myself and I would just get lost in a big school. So it was nice to just be able to go to a small school, ask questions when I needed to, and it really helped me get to know my professors, be able to go and ask for help when I wanted. And they really got to know me, which was good for when I needed recommendation letters. So those were kind of why I decided to go there.
Thanks for that. Does anyone else want to give their response? Okay. Let's see. So I guess I'm curious, for Bridget, what questions should you ask when considering which school in terms of undergraduate university?
I mean, yeah, I guess I would second Jewel in saying, money wise. So how much, can you get in aid? How much are you going to be paying out of pocket? I went to community college at first because of that exact reason. But I transferred over to UMass because that's where my REU was, and that's where my professor was, who I ended up, working with. So I guess another thing to think of would be, do you maybe want like a rural or a city kind of setting, if that plays into your decision at all. I certainly like it out here. There's lots of outdoor activities to do, lots of mountains to climb. It's been pretty nice for, COVID living. So I guess that would be my response. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I'll also chime in that I did choose a somewhat prestigious liberal arts college to attend to. And I think I didn't totally think about this going in, but it's easy to maybe feel a bystander, or not bystander, what's the word I'm looking for? Huh? Feel like, yes. Feel like the other people around you are maybe like better at doing what you're doing, and that you maybe don't belong in that place. And so I think I had a hard time going to college, in that I felt like in my high school I was one of the top students, and then when I arrived at my university I was not, and kind of surrounded by people who were also really hardworking. But I wouldn't let that get you down. And I would also say that it's, a very real possibility to feel that way, and that a lot of people will feel that way. And I would second, asking about financial aid and student loans. And there are a lot of universities that are very expensive, but do also have very good financial aid, or very good, or no loans. And so it's important to think about that, but also the size and the curriculum and the opportunity for research if you're interested in that, and the class size. Yeah.
If I can just jump in too, I think that the biggest thing about applying to college is keeping an open mind. So I probably had sent out like 12 applications, because using the Common App, it's so easy. You're just like send, and your parents' credit card, you just like swipe, swipe, swipe. But I think that the thing was like I expected to go to a totally different school than the one I actually went to. The undergraduate college I went to just kind of like sent me an email one day, and they're like, "We're waiving your application fee." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds good. I'll apply." And I went to that school, I toured it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I just think you need to keep an open mind, and you may not go to the place you expect, and that's totally okay, because you really, and I don't know if this is going to be true going forward with this virtual world, but for me, it was really stepping on the campus that gave me a good sense of where I wanted to be. And I don't know if it's going to be important going forward because of, virtual classes and things, but I do think that you need to give yourself the ability to envision yourself in different places so that you can kind of expand your mind and, get out of your comfort zone a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so this next question I'll throw to Jewel and ask, what is the biggest challenge you have faced in STEM, and how did you overcome it?
Good question. I'm actually not sure. I guess, especially in undergrad, STEM fields don't come naturally to me at all. I really had to work my butt off, sit down and study. Like people in undergrad would ask me sometimes how long I would study, and they couldn't believe how long I would sit there and study, because it just does not come naturally to me at all. Especially chemistry does not come naturally to me at all, and that's what I went into. So I would say that I just had to work really hard, spend a lot of time studying. Like I played tennis, I would study in the van on the way to matches, in between matches, just any chance I would get, I would just sit, study, do practice problems. So that would probably be, there's probably other things. That's all I can think of right now. But yeah, that was very hard for me, just to get the material.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
I'll jump in on that too. I second that. I was a big studier. I studied a lot, spent a lot of time doing that. But I think Kim was the one who mentioned that, you might have people sometimes who think that you can't do it, or ask, oh, is there a male tutor? And I've certainly experienced that as well. If I'm studying with a group, sometimes, some of the men in the group maybe don't ask me what I think. They'll turn to, one of the other men in the group. And for me, I use that for motivation. I'm like, okay, you don't think I can do it? Well, maybe I'll go up to the whiteboard for the next problem and show everyone that I can. So, you can kind of turn maybe something that doesn't make you feel very good into something that motivates you to be, even better, or, prove yourself. I don't know, just be more into it. I studied harder because of that. I was like, I will get a better score than that person on the test. So you can turn it into something more positive.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll once again say, Emma and Morgan, if at any point you want clarification or a question that you have, please let us know. And so, let's see, Kim, what other skills are surprisingly useful in STEM? I know you've touched on this a little bit with your handy skills and public speaking and writing skills, but is there anything else that comes to mind for this?
Yeah, so I definitely think those soft skills are necessary. So like being able to speak well and being able to write well and, make a presentation and make a Word document and stuff like that. One thing I did not think would be as important, and I've kind of tried to avoid my entire scientific career, is any kind of coding or computational awareness. I have religiously tried to avoid it, and this year it caught up with me because I guess that for many journals, they like you to actually code your written documents. So I had to teach myself how to do that. And then a lot of my research now is focused on modeling what happens when a shockwave hits a material so that we can then make a shockwave hit a material and know what's going to happen. So I tried to avoid it. It caught up with me. And now, like, I would say about 50% of what I do is computational work. But that's not to say it's a bad thing, and it's not to say it's very hard. I literally just put some numbers in, and somebody much smarter than me has already made the program. So that's nice, but I just think it's really interesting how this is a skill that I thought, I'm not going to be a computational chemist, and it has already caught up with me. And it's really useful because now we know what we're going to need before we already need it. So that's cool. And yeah, I mean, I do enjoy learning new things, and it's been nice, especially with the coronavirus, to have something that I just need my computer to do. So don't shy away from computational or coding. I know that Bridget was talking about coding earlier and how she has had a great experience with it. So that's probably something that I didn't know that I would need, but some understanding of how computers work is probably necessary.
Thank you. I'll add on that slightly, that in addition to coding, something else I found useful is statistics in general. I think at the high school level, they really tend to push calculus, which definitely has its place in science and engineering, but statistics and, knowing how to tell if your data is statistically significant or how to interpret, statistics in general has been really helpful. And I've been glad that I took some statistics classes in college and high school to that end. And then also I was going to say, I don't know, if this is really a skill, but just asking for help is something that I have definitely needed to get better at and, still need to get better at. But I think in STEM, something that I get caught up in sometimes is feeling like I need to prove myself and, do the problem set on my own. But I think it's really important to learn how to collaborate and ask people around you for help. And yeah, again, Emma and Morgan, if there's anything, please let us know. I don't want to talk.
We just got one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Morgan has asked, what kind of classes should I focus on in high school to prepare for aerospace engineering? I would say, this is maybe a cop-out, but physics and having some calculus and, if possible, some statistics would be a good place to start, I would imagine. Some challenges with high school physics, right, is that physics is a pretty broad field. And so, you might not cover things in astronomy, but I think it's still, physics in general can be like a good window into this sort of problem solving and thinking about problems that can be really difficult to visualize. But I don't know if Bridget, Kim, or Jewel have kind of more specific guidance other than that.
Yeah, I think that was, that definitely physics and calculus and whatnot would be good. Also, though, you can spend some time working on those soft skills as well and work on being able to give presentations. I'm not sure if there's technical writing in high school, but those would be really helpful as well.
One thing, I don't know if this is universal for all schools, but I found out my school, and I think some other schools have this. You should talk to your guidance counselor. But if you notice that there's a college class that you think you're at the level to take and your high school doesn't offer that class, there's a program that you can take that college course during high school and you don't have to pay for it and you get credit for it. And so then when you go to college, you get your feet wet a little bit with some college courses and you also get those credits and they usually transfer over. Yeah, it might be, I think it is dual enrollment. So you can talk to your guidance counselor and see, so then maybe you could take like an astrology class. I took like 3 credits for it and it helped so much. So I would recommend looking into that if there's like some classes that you think you want to try out that your school doesn't offer.
I would also say, oh shoot, I just forgot my thought. There's also a couple of like online classes, like Coursera, where they do different lessons and modules that are free to the public. I can post the link to that. I'm not sure off the top of my head if there's an aerospace one or if it's kind of designed for a high school level, but I'm continuously surprised how much is just openly available on the internet as well, if you're looking to supplement high school classes with kind of individual work.
I would definitely say also get those APs in. If your high school has AP courses, you definitely want to get as many of those as you can, because I took 7 APs in high school. I qualified for credit on all of them. So that would have been potentially 7 college credits I was coming in with. I think that's how it worked. But anyway, my undergraduate institution limited me at 3 or 4. But I do know that if you go to, I think it's community college, they accept all of them. So you could have like a lot of classes done already. So that's something that you should definitely look into. And I think that there's something, what is it, IB or something, that there's another one. Wow, 9 to 10 APs. Awesome. You are on track. Good for you. Yeah, that's amazing. Definitely do as well as those as you can. You know, get the highest score, 5s or those 4s. Wow, 2 people. Geez. Good for you. Yeah, you want those AP credits. They'll get you out of all those really boring introductory classes that you have to take as a freshman in college that you really don't want to take.
And I would say too, there's really no issues that I really see in just going into introduction to aerospace engineering when you start college. I think that most colleges are designed to get you through the required curriculum to major, starting from pretty much scratch at the beginning. And in fact, in some cases, I would recommend going into the intro classes, even if you had maybe like a little bit of a background, because I think they do kind of assume a pretty intense level if you jump right into intermediate. I don't know if that's the case in all fields, but I think it's okay if you aren't exposed to it at the high school level, especially when it's kind of that specialized the field of engineering. But AP credits are great. And even if your university doesn't give you credits for the APs you've taken, it does show a level of rigor that looks really strong on your record.
Yeah, do either of you have any more questions kind of related to classes or anything like that that you want to ask now? Okay, if not, I will continue to kind of ask these 3 questions. So let's see. I know Jewel kind of already spoke to this, but I was wondering for Bridget, what other extracurricular activities were you a part of outside of STEM?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me this question because I had a very unhealthy undergraduate. I mean, I was 28, so I had a lot of stuff already figured out. So I just studied and did not do any extracurricular activities. I worked as well. My first time, my business degree, I was on the swim team though, and that was really great. And honestly, that was a great way for me to like make friends and meet people. I will say too, since I transferred in from community college into junior year at school, I really had to work my way into some already established study groups. So, a lot of people like, you shouldn't and I wasn't doing extracurricular activities. So I wasn't like meeting people outside of it. So, don't be intimidated if you have to kind of go up and be like, hi, I'm, so-and-so, and, are you working on that homework? Can I work on that too? And, find the study space that everyone works at, which we do have a study space that every mechanical engineer undergrad goes to. I was there all the time. So, there is a way to meet people, but yeah, not a healthy undergrad for me, unfortunately.
Okay, and so for Kimberly, I was wondering for you, what were some factors that made your college experience successful? And also kind of what resources did you take advantage of in college?
Sure. Video might be coming a little unstable, so if it does, just let me know. Anyway, in my undergraduate experience, I really did try to maximize my extracurriculars. So I'm a person who uses both halves of my brain, as I said, because like I have, I enjoy writing and I enjoy science. I think the two are completely compatible, but for me, I really did try to exercise both halves. So I was involved in my chemistry club at my undergraduate institution. I was editor-in-chief of the school newspaper, and I was chair of our honor council, which was basically the institution that took care of cases of academic dishonesty. And honestly, each of these extracurriculars, and I was part of ballroom dancing as well. I see that somebody commented that. And I just really wanted to kind of keep getting all those experiences that I could, keep interacting with different types of people, keep working my brain and my body in different ways, because that made me the most successful. I'm a very go person. I really like to be busy. So having all these obligations really kept me at like the top of my game. I do have to say though, it was a lot, and I wouldn't recommend this for everyone because you do get burned out. And during the summers, I was definitely like, oh, I'm dying. I need to just like chill out for a couple months. And I also, one thing I did find that I enjoyed was I was a chemistry tutor. So basically the chemistry department at my college hired me and was like, here, teach people. So I held office hours, and that was also a really good experience because I enjoyed watching people like get science. And these would be freshmen who just didn't really know some concepts that I would just kind of like help them with. And at the end of it, I feel like they just came to like such an appreciation of chemistry and started to love it. So all of these experiences really gave me a good vision for what I want for my career, and it helped me be successful because I was just experiencing so many things, learning what I liked, learning what I didn't like, learning what environments I worked best in, learning, and I really learned, even though I was in a lot of team environments, that I just power through when I'm alone. So that was something I learned about myself, is that when I really need to get stuff done. I need to be alone and I need to just focus and put my head to the grindstone, as they say. So I would say like just expose yourself to a lot of different experiences and kind of weed out what doesn't work. Okay, I really like mentoring and I really like teaching, so let's keep that, you know, in my repertoire going forward. But oh, I really don't like, you know, like financing or like managing the money, so let's discard that. So I think that was something that was really important for me. And then the last thing I'll just say is, while I was editor-in-chief of the newspaper, I really discovered something. So I was in charge of sometimes writing the cover story, so headline was to make you want to pick up the paper. And I found out that nobody really cared what was on the front of the paper. Nobody would ever like catch me outside the office and say, I love what you wrote about the front page. What they cared about was on page 12, where I had my opinion section. And in this section, I would write, you know, things about like how important it is to go hiking while you're in college to move your body, or how, I was also in the outdoors club as well, how important it is to find a good group of friends. People really enjoyed that subjective personal experience. And I started to incorporate that into my science writing in appropriate documents. And I really just discovered that people relate to writing a lot better when it's slightly personal, and you know, it just conveys emotion and human experience, versus those front page articles I was writing that was like, on September 14th we met blah, blah, blah. Like it was boring. So that was something that was really important for me, and I think that that's something that I want to bring to the field of science, is an understanding of like what it's like to spend 12 hours a day in the lab. Not that I do that, but like what it's like when you're working on a project and you're just so into it that you have to miss, you know, certain events like your friends having dinner or something like that. So I'm really trying to bring like the human experience to science, and to kind of express that in everything I do, because I think that it also, this would be the last thing I say, I'm sorry, but the one thing I also experienced is like how important it is, and I think Bridget was kind of getting there, was like to watch after your mental health. So like I was go all the time, and I would get so burned out, and I didn't realize the toll it was taking on me. But you really do need to look after your mental health. And I think that by saying that science is hard and we all struggle sometimes, we can kind of get rid of the stigma that you need to be perfect, you need to be the smartest to go to grad school or to go to college at all, because I am not perfect and I'm not the smartest and I have made so many mistakes, but you know, we get through every day. So it's kind of like two takeaways I have learned, I guess, is like explore a lot and do all your different experiences, and that will set you up for success. And because obviously you need to pursue what you love, and then also like just always look after your mental health. If you need a day off, like take it. You know, obviously you probably shouldn't take like every single day of the week off, but if you need a mental health day, like take it. Look after yourself first, because if you know you're not doing your best work, then that's no good for anyone.
Thank you for that. Jewel or Bridget, any closing words for this?
And thinking about different resources on campus, I know here we have an Office of Professional Development, which I have found extremely helpful. So, you know, presentations are going to be a big part of your undergraduate. If you go to grad school, it's, you know, a huge part of it. I hate giving presentations. I'm sitting here just sweating bullets talking to you all. So, you know, I've gone to multiple presentations just on how to give presentations and how to not be so nervous. And that's been really, really helpful for me. And, you know, it's something that you kind of have to throw yourself into and do it more and more and more. And the more you do it, it does get a little bit easier. You get a little bit better at it. So that would be my advice for resources, Office of Professional Development.
Jewel, any closing advice?
Yeah, I would definitely take advantage of programs like Office of Professional Development. Also, definitely, if you're someone like me that struggles a little bit with classes, definitely take advantage of office hours. Office hours are huge. And if there's TAs that are holding office hours, take advantage of those. Yeah, just take advantage of any opportunity that people are giving you.
Thank you so much. I think the one thing I was thinking of to add was that I encourage you all to also diversify your classes and friend groups and professors that you seek out, and that college can be a really great place to kind of widen your network and learn from other people. And yeah, I'm so glad that I took classes like math and science, but also like gender and economics, or like you know, the history of Africa or something like that. And I'm really grateful for kind of having a diverse group of people around me. And I hope that both of you are able to go to in-person colleges and meet some cool people. So do either of you have any last questions for us? And if not, I'll turn it over to Paula for the signing off.
All right, so I didn't even say who I was at the beginning. I'm realizing I'm Paula Reese. I'm one of the assistant deans in the college. My purview is diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I'm a water resources engineer, civil engineering, water resources. So I come at it from an engineering standpoint. So thank you, ladies, so much. Such great stories, such good advice. Thank you for spending an hour with us tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.